Assalamu alaikum. Dear student of class 10, I am Shariful Islam, your biology teacher. In our last lecture, I discussed about chapter 13, Environment of Life. Previous two lectures, I also delivered some topics like explain ecosystem, explain the interrelationship between the elements of an ecosystem, food chain and food web, comparison between the energy flow and the nutrient element of an ecosystem, relationship between energy performance in between trophic levels, energy pyramid, the concept of an ecological pyramid in limiting the food chain. Today, in our regular class, I am trying to deliver about biodiversity and type of biodiversity, then the role of biodiversity in sustaining the stability of an ecosystem, the interaction and interdependence in between different organisms in maintaining balance in environment, the method used the conservation of the environment, the importance of the conservation of the environment in maintaining the balance in it, the reciprocal interrelationship between the producer, consumers and transformers in a given locality, the causes of pollution of all the elements of a specific environment, a flow chart showing the flow of energy, food chain and food web in an ecosystem, and at last contribution of the components of an ecosystem to the maintain of balance of environment. First of all, our main topics is biodiversity. In page number 286, 13.5, topics biodiversity. The environment is composed of animate and inanimate substance. It is the assemblage of many types of organisms and innumerable kinds of inanimate substance. How many types of organisms are there in the world? It is difficult to give the exact figure of it, but on account of species like who are similar to each other in physical and reproductive characters and originate from the same ancestor is called species. This is an important definition in our topics is species. Until now, it has been possible to know the description and nomenclature of 13 lakhs of animals and 4 lakhs of plants. Every species is characterized with its own unique features and is different and identifiable from all other species. For instance, jackfruit is a species and it is possible to separate it from other species by its special characteristics. It has become possible to group the living world into millions of species because of the existing diversity in organisms. In human being is a species. At present, about 700 crore of human beings lives on the earth. They are all not exactly the same and are different from each other in some characteristics. So, diversity is there even among the members of the same species. Briefly to say, it can be said that biodiversity is the abundance and variability among organisms existing on the earth. So, it's the another definition of biodiversity. Biodiversity is the abundance and variability among organisms existing on the earth. Now, the next topics, type of biodiversity. There are three types of biodiversity. That is, biodiversity can be divided into three categories. Number one, species biodiversity. Number two, genetic biodiversity. Number three, ecosystem biodiversity. At first, species biodiversity. Species biodiversity generally means the total number of organisms existing on the earth, because a species is different from the other species by its distinctive characteristics, such as a deer is distinct from a tiger in size, habit, ferocity, number, mode of reproduction, etc. The difference in different issues of a species from other species is species biodiversity. Next option, genetic diversity. Difference in many issues are found in the member of same species, though they belong to the same species. Their structure, size and ability to resist disease and to endure environmental adversities are different. This difference emerges because of the small diversity in the composition of their genes. Heredity characters the organisms are transmitted through generations by gene. There is a gene for every characteristic. Changes in characteristics in organisms occur because of the change in the structure and arrangement of genes. A new species may evolve. Through this process, the diversity introduced within organisms in the same species is called genetic diversity. At last, ecosystem diversity. It may changes occur with the physical, chemical and organic components of an ecosystem. The balance of ecosystem is hampered. These changes are of course slow and steady. To adapt with these changes also occur in the organisms living there. As a result, the biodiversity developed there is called the ecosystem diversity. In a small pond ecosystem, the habitats for the plants and animals are different than those in a river ecosystem. In the ecosystem of a forest, grassland, lake, river, water reservoir, hills, sea, or a desert, the living communities are developed with their own distinct characteristics. Effect of biodiversity on the maintenance of stability in an ecosystem. The components of the environment are deeply interrelated with each other. To maintain balance in the environment, this complex relationship has developed. With the activities of a large number of organisms, the balance is maintained in an environment. The extinction of a species in an environment can cause a large catastrophe. So, for the stability of the environment, biodiversity is especially important. Some organisms and animals were once considered unnecessary and undesired. With the passage of time, it has been found that these organisms are continuously playing a necessary role for the conservation of the environment. Once there were innumerable oysters in the coast of Chesapeake in the United States of America. They could purify the water of the whole locality in only 3 days. But now 99% of those oysters have been extinct. As a result, the remaining oyster cannot purify the water of that total locality even by a year. This is why the water of that coast gradually became muddy and the level of dissolved oxygen in the water locality is being reduced. A mature toad in a day can eat the amount of worms and insects equal to its body weight. These worms and insects cause harm to our cultivated harvest. Because of pesticides, toads are being killed. Worms and insects are the main food of birds. Among them, the number of pests which cause harm to humans and cultivated harvest is high. Besides that, birds play a significant role in pollination. We know that owl, eagle, vulture, and parrots are predatory birds. By eating rats, they keep the number of rats under control. If a pair of rats living at a house of a human without any trouble could reproduce freely, the number of rats would be 880 at the end of the year. But an owl can eat 3 rats in a day. If vultures, parrots, and crows would not clear the dead and decaying organism matters, the world would be converted with them. This is why no organism can be considered unnecessary. If any organism is extinct from the environment, the stability of an ecosystem is destroyed. So, for the sustainability of ecosystem, the role of biodiversity is unquestionable. Now, the next topics: interaction and interdependence among different organisms, and the balance of environment. Green plants are generally called self-dependent because they are autotrophic. We have to know about autotrophic organism, those who have a ability to produce food by the process of photosynthesis with the help of carbon dioxide, air, sunlight, oxygen, and the chlorophyll, and produce glucose-based food that is called carbohydrate. This process is called photosynthesis, and the organisms who are able to continue this process is called autotrophic. Considered from environment point of view, no organism is self-dependent, not even the green plants. Plants, birds and animals, worms and insects, and other organisms influence each other. A flowering plant depends on worms and insects for its cross-pollination, and on other birds and animals for the dispersal of seeds. For photosynthesis, green plants use carbon dioxide that is released by animals during respiration. Conversely, animals use oxygen released by plants in the daytime. Bacteria, fungi, and different microorganisms in different ways affect plants, animals, and worms and insects. It can briefly be said that mutual assembly and dependence are the key to regulation of the activities of life. In the living world, existing organic relationship between plants and animals can be designed with the term symbiosis. In symbiosis, the related organisms are called symbionts. The action-reaction that occurs in between symbiotic organisms is called interaction. This is an important definition, that is, action-reaction that occurs in symbiotic organisms is called interaction. We have to know this definition. It has also been clear from the discussion made above that the organism participating in interactions and interdependence, and none is self-sustaining. Environmental scientist Adam says that these interdependent relations can be occurred in two ways. Number one, positive interaction, and number two, negative interaction. Adam is an environmental scientist who said interdependent relationship can be occurred in two ways: positive interaction and then negative interaction. At first, I discuss of positive interaction. The interrelationship in which two organisms help each other is called positive interaction. Of these symbiotic organisms, one for both may be benefited. This beneficial interaction can be grouped further into two categories named mutualism and commensalism. Mutualism. The relationship is mutualism when in the association both the organisms are benefited. For example, a bee or a fly, etc., flies around from flower to flower to attain the nectar, and as a result, the pollination is accomplished. Many birds and bats live on eating fruits, and they release seed with their stools from one place to another place. In this way, seeds are transferred and the distribution of plants is done. This seed helps to develop new plants. The association of an algae and a fungus formed lichen. Sometimes I have some question like, what is lichen? We said this question in different examination, so you have to learn this definition in short term. What is lichen? The fungus collects water vapor from the air and minerals salt to use for both of them. On the other side, the algae produce carbohydrate for itself and for the fungus. The Rhizobium bacteria residing at the roots of a leguminous plants form nodules, fix atmospheric nitrogen in them. They supply this fixed nitrogen to the host leguminous plant and in return collect their carbohydrates from it. So we can say this is a relationship between two species or two organisms. There, both of them are beneficial, and we draw two organisms, both are beneficial, so both are plus plus on the basis of beneficiality. Then the another form of positive interaction, commensalism. In this association, only one organisms get benefited. True, the other associate is not beneficiated, it does not lose anything. For example, a stripper plant with its root is anchored in the sail and trips up round a big tree. This way, it collects the sufficient amount of light by spreading on other plants. Woody strippers does not depend on the plant that is providing shelter for its for food and does not do any harm to it. Epiphytic plants collect food from its air but do not do any harms to the plant providing shelter. Some algae dwells in bodies of other plants but do not do any harm to them. And there's, we can say, organisms of two, their association of commensalism is one organisms are beneficial and other is no beneficial and no loser, it is zero. This is called positive interaction. This is the symbol of commensalism, a stripper plants and epiphytic plant. Stripper plants and epiphytic plant do not take any nutrients from the big tree, and big tree are not lose anything to support these epiphytic plant and stripper plants. And this is the relationship of commensalism.